Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday Green Dialogue. And this is a sort of an open conversation about anything people want to talk about. Today we have a special guest, Jared Harmon, Executive Director for the Mid-Michigan Wildlife Conservancy, and he's going to share a little bit about what he's been doing. Thank you, Amanda, for telling us about Jared and his new role. And before we get started though, does anybody have any quick updates or things they want to throw on the table before we hand it over to Jared? Okay, I guess we're all set to go. Jared, welcome. Excited about your new role and energy you're putting into to the Conservancy. Would you mind sharing a few words about what you're up to, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. And my apologies, my dog's in the background messing around, but I couldn't figure out how to blur my screen. But yeah, so I took over February last year at Mid-Michigan Land Conservancy, and we've made a lot of progress. There's still a lot of things that we need to do, but I don't know if all of you are familiar with what we do or what our purpose is, but essentially we've been tasked with protecting natural lands and farms in Mid-Michigan. We work in 7 counties, and we've been around as a conservancy since 2002. Took over the Natural Areas Association's nonprofit status, and they've been around since 1979. And since 2002, we've now reached 2,500 acres of land that we've currently protected. 2,000 of those acres are through conservation easements, and 425 acres of that land is through fee simple acquisition that we've opened to the public. So we actually have 7 natural areas that are open to the public. And the nice thing is that our new website's coming out at the end of the month. So you'll actually have maps and information on how to get to those natural areas that are open to you. 2 of them are in Ingham County, and we have a natural area in every county except Eaton, which is something that I'm working on. And this weekend, if you're free, we'll be having a pat goat hike at the Bunker Natural Area. So if you want to come check out Bunker and some baby goats, we'll be hiking through Bunker Saturday at noon. You can check it out on Facebook. Have a link and information on how to get there. And yeah, I'll jump around a bunch of different topics because I have so much going on. So I'll try to keep on track here. But essentially, with my hiring, we're trying to protect more land. And my job is really to increase the capacity of this conservancy to protect and acquire and steward more land. And it's my hope in the next few years, with increased funding opportunities and donations, we'll be moving to having paid internships. And then in the future, I'd like to actually be able to hire staff straight out of Michigan State or any of the local colleges in the region. Because we want to provide good jobs. We want to provide a valuable educational experience to those students, and hopefully a job that they would like to keep and assist us in protecting more land. So we do have a number of properties in the pipeline too. We recently protected 200 acres on the Shiawassee River, 137 acres, and then we also protected 63 acres on the Maple River with conservation easements. And the next year, we're expecting to add 150 more acres on the Looking Glass River. We're going to be protecting a 124-acre farm on the Grand River. And I just received an application this morning to protect 80 acres in the headwaters of the Kalamazoo River watershed. And I've also received an application to start to protect an urban forest in cooperation with the Ingham County Land Bank. So we're really trying to get different, natural areas open to the public. We're looking at large properties, small properties, and really increasing the capacity of us to protect land. And we also received a grant through the DNR. It's called Forest in My Faucet. So we will be educating the public and planting 5,000 trees in the Grand River watershed in riparian areas. So we're looking for partners, especially municipal partners, we'll pay for and we'll help coordinate the volunteer days to plant trees in riparian areas. But really the purpose of that grant is we want to really educate the public and the region on the link between healthy forest stewardship, and clean drinking water. And that's a partnership that is through the entire state of Michigan, all the way from the Western UP, all the way to the Indiana border. So we're excited about that. And then I don't have an official word on it yet, but we are going to receive a grant to do some stewardship work at Atherton Natural Area in Shiawassee County. It's a former oak savanna that's been overrun with autumn olive. So we will be getting money to remove the autumn olive, plant oak trees and wildflowers and grasses that are, natural to an oak savanna habitat. So we're excited about that. Just don't have the official, I haven't written the paper or signed it yet, the DNR, but we'll be doing some enhancements there. And that's a nice 80-acre natural area that doesn't really get much use. and we're really hoping to enhance it, make it more beneficial to wildlife, and this more pleasurable walk for anyone who's out there to visit the property. So we're busy. I do a bunch of different tasks, lots going on at the same time. So we're just really trying to grow the capacity of the Conservancy, and I'd like to get some staff so again, they can have good jobs, and I'm not strung out doing a bunch of different tasks, and that we can kind of focus and really push our land protection efforts. And we will be doing some outreach. Like I said, we have the goat hike this weekend. Next month, we're going to be doing a demonstration on invasive species removal with goats at Atherton Natural Area. And then September 9th at 9 o'clock, we have Capital Area Audubon's going to be helping us. They're going to be promoting a birding event at Bunker Natural Area, which is our most famous birding spot. We had pelicans out there last year. We had eagles and pheasants and all sorts of different. We had a lot of birders out there all the time. So again, our hope and focus is that we can protect these farms, and that we can keep them permanently protected, and protecting a lot of the national areas that still exist in Michigan. And I like to remind people that we're not anti-business, we're not anti-development. We just are the voice for the land. And we believe that Mid-Michigan is a great place to live, and we like to make sure that it's a thriving business economy, and that there's natural areas for those who live and work here. So that's kind of our philosophy, and we're looking really to increase and push our land protection efforts. And as a conservancy, we want to make all of you proud of the work that we do, and we want to be one of the larger conservancies in the state, representing the capital region positively. So I'll keep talking. So I'll stop. If are there any questions about what we're doing? Any suggestions of what you'd see the conservancy doing in the region, and or anything else that you'd like to discuss about what we're doing?
Who's got, I'm sure people have questions, and I'm curious what a goat walk involves, but I'll let other people ask questions.
I might have missed it, but what is your Mid-Michigan? So do you represent certain counties?
Yeah, we represent 7 counties. We have another one at Montcalm. We have a conservation easement at Montcalm, which I'm not sure why, but we do Ionia County all the way down through Hillsdale County. So I believe, if I can rattle them off early in the morning: Ionia, Clinton, Eaton, Shiawassee, Ingham, Eaton, Jackson, and Hillsdale are our focus counties. Most of our conservation easements are found in Clinton County and Hillsdale County. And we like to make sure that when we're fairly representing the rest of the region by getting more conservation easements. But I'd say that the bulk of our land protection is in Clinton County and in Hillsdale. But we want to make, like I said, we want to make sure that we're fairly representing everybody. And we have natural areas in every county except Eaton. So I'm really trying to find one in Eaton that we can open to the public at some point in the future, whether it's donated or we raise the funds to purchase it.
Thank you.
You mentioned Oak Savannah that you're trying to restore. Whereabouts is that?
It's between Perry and Morris, and the historical data from my GIS data set said it was Oak Savannah. There's some oaks out there and some hickory. Unfortunately, it was used and it's cleared for sheep grazing, and the property has been kind of not mismanaged, but hasn't been undergoing management for the last, I'd say, 40 years. So autumn olive has really crept into that property. So that's one that we'll be looking to use that money to help restore. And that was through a DNR grant. So I will be looking for volunteers over the next couple of years. The first part of that project will be forestry mulching a lot of it, because there's so much autumn olive. It would take an army of volunteers many, many years to remove it. So we're going to start with the forestry mulcher, and then we're going to do some volunteer days with some herbicide.
Looks like Sam's got a question.
You mentioned.
Oh, yeah. Jared, it sounds like you're doing quite a lot of tree planting, and I'd be curious to know more about that program. Things like, is it all volunteers, or what size trees you're doing, and also maintenance. If you have any kind of follow-up for cold water for a couple of years. Some of the programs I've been involved with, there's seems to be holes here and there, but if you're having some great success, I'd be curious to know how that works.
Yeah, so we're just looking to partner with municipalities to plant riparian areas. We would pay for the trees. We would coordinate the volunteer days, anticipating berryroot seedlings based on the budget. If there are concerns with maintenance, the grant does run for several years, so I wouldn't be able to go out there and help water them, but if I could help develop a volunteer program or someone to help water those trees, I hate to put some seedlings out in the landscape and just have them all perish and have it become a wasted endeavor. So I'd be open to discussion of how to maintain those trees and how we could assist in providing volunteers over a couple of years to make sure that they're doing well. But yeah, we're looking to plant 5,000 trees on public and private property. So we will subsidize private landowners to plant trees on riparian areas in the Grand River watershed. They just need to provide proof that they planted them. And my anticipation is that we'd be buying the trees to the district. So we'd like to use this money, keep it in the community to our local conservation organization. So that would be my intention, would be to buy from them for that program. But I can follow up with you if you have any areas that you'd like to have planted, or if you have any other questions. I think you all have my contact information, but if you'd like to discuss that further, then I'd be happy to do that.
Hey, Jared, do you have a lot of wetlands in your conservation easement?
Yeah, we have a 2-acre wetland up in Clinton County. We actually outright own a fen in Jackson County. We have a lot of vernal pools. In fact, one of the things I like to start doing over the coming years is like start doing vernal pool patrol with the schools and some bio blitzes on our properties in conjunction with MSU, getting students out there. But we do protect a number of wetlands. We have 120 acres on the Grand River in Ionia County, right in the city of Ionia. Yeah, the fen's really nice down in Jackson. We don't take many people there, but we're thinking about doing a field trip with anyone interested to go down and look at some rare fen plants, in that prairie fen. And we own a number of properties that run across some riparian areas of rivers and streams. And yeah, we do have a number of nice wetlands. We haven't been able to do much surveying in there, but someone who has better plant knowledge than me, I'd like to start doing some outreach and maybe doing some plant ID days and invite the community out. But yeah, we do have a number of wetlands. Wetlands are a high priority for us. And this property that we'll be hopefully protecting here over the next year in Hillsdale County has lots of nice prairie fen and wetlands, extremely nice box turtle breeding habitat. So we're excited to really improve our efforts, and protecting wetlands especially are a high priority for us. And the more the merrier that we can keep protected, the better. That's what we're really hoping for.
How did you get started in this, Jared?
My background was mostly in conservation districts, so my bread and butter is invasive species treatments. So I was a SISMA coordinator in southern Michigan for a while. My claim to fame is I found kudzu in Michigan. I've also worked in Owl Royal National Park, cowbird control program for Fish and Wildlife. So I was up there killing cowbirds and protecting Kirtland warblers for a bit. But most of my jobs have been, working under USDA conservation districts. But I have done some wilderness things. When I was many pounds ago, I was out in the trails, clearing trails on Minong Ridge and all those places in Owl Royal National Park. Now I'm behind the desk more often, but I try to get out as often as possible. I have a farm here I live in Kalamazoo County, but I work up in mid-Michigan. I have a 160-acre farm. We've been here since the 30s. So we raise Texas Longhorns and beef cattle, and I have pat goats. So I mentioned this weekend we're doing a goat hike. So we're going to be talking about pat goats, which are very common out west. They use goats for transportation, typically in the scientific community. Hunters and anglers also use them for moving equipment and campsites. So I'm training goats right now for hunting out west, but we'll be using them for hiking and bunker. So this weekend at bunker, we're just going to do a casual hike. I'm bringing the baby goats out. I'm not bringing the big ones. And we're just going to hike through bunker and talk about its features and kind of show people new ideas. This is more of a Western activity, but Michigan has plenty of outdoor recreational opportunities. So we're going to start showing those guys, and maybe start a pat goat community in Michigan. I know it's done in 4-H quite a bit. It's a little different, because they do a lot of obstacle courses, but pat goats typically are just like mules or llamas that you see out west. So if you don't have a lot of acreage, we use goats, and they don't need water. They forage on the trail. So yeah, this weekend at noon, Bunker Natural Area. If you want to just come out for a quick little hike, I have 3 baby goats we're bringing, and we're just going to hike through the natural area and just have a very casual time. They're not super trained, but they like following humans. So if they're well behaved, they'll follow us through the whole natural area without having to be leashed. But if they become stinkers, of course, we can put a leash on them. But that's what I do. Yeah, so I'm always busy, whether it's the Conservancy, the cattle, the goats. There's always something going on. And again, at Mid-Michigan, we're always trying to promote recreational opportunities too. So we'll bring in different speakers and presenters that are far more interesting than me in the future. But we're looking to have an event in one of our natural areas at least once a month. And we are going to be having our first annual gathering next spring we want to make sure that we're really connecting more with our membership and our supporters. So I'm anticipating next April, we'll be having our first annual gathering with our membership just to talk about our success, what we've been doing, bring in a short speaker to talk about an interesting environmental topic. And really, like I said, we just want to grow to be one of those really well-established conservancies. And we believe that Mid-Michigan deserves to have a very strong functioning conservancy that's protected a lot of land, that offers a lot of information and education to the public, and one that is working very diligently to protect the land that we have here and the farms.
So, Jared, did you say you do work in Wayne County? And then also, I was curious about where your farm might be in Kalamazoo County.
We don't do anything in Wayne County. I believe that's not Legacy that protects it. It might be the Thumbland Conservancy. I'm trying to remember who covers that. The entire state of Michigan is fortunately covered by conservancies, which is a nice thing. My farm is in northeast Kalamazoo County. I live in Augusta, Michigan, right between Battle Creek, Kalamazoo. So I'm like in the corner, almost in Berry County, almost in. So I'm really close to actually the W.K. Kellogg Biological Station. So we have Michigan State roots here. Biological stations right up the road. W.K. Kellogg Forest is right down the road from me.
Great.
And I'll be working with Southwest in the next few years to put a conservation easement on my property. I want to make sure it's permanently protected, and that when I'm gone, that no one turns it into any parts of the subdivision or develops the land or anything I wouldn't like.
That's a beautiful area. I lived in Galesburg for about 10 years. So yeah, I know the area very well.
Okay, you've probably driven by my farm. It was
Yeah.
Harmon's Maple Ridge Farm, had a bunch of Herefords on it for a long time. My dad passed at 15, we sold the herd, and so now we're just trying to rebuild. And now we have beef cattle, and we do some Texas Longhorns too. I actually was going to try to train some of those for invasive species control. They eat shrubs. I haven't been able to train this Longhorn bull yet, but in my hope in the future I can bring it out and demonstrate, that we can use bovines for invasive species control. Like I said, that was my former job, so I'm always treating invasive species or thinking of new ways to treat them. And I've been out every night, the last few nights, treating buckthorn on my property. So that's pretty much all I think about.
Jared, you said you were training goats to use for invasive species, or are you already using them for that?
I feed them quite often, buckthorn. We're going to do a demonstration in Atherton, but I use them for packing. And then the nice thing is I use them for invasive species too, because it's free food. And with this drought, things have been kind of a struggle here on the farms. The nice thing is I can turn my goats loose on buckthorn, autumn olive, and invasive bittersweet is their favorite food. So I have the netting that will be. So what my plan was for that activity, and we'll do it at some of our Ingham County, we'll move around, is I actually had a team of goats in my former job that we used at a county park, to remove bittersweet. So yeah, we just fence them off temporarily, leave the goats in for a few days. They eat all the invasives. And then if I have to, I'll come in there and I'll treat, invasive vines or anything that they don't eat. They do a very phenomenal job of clearing the understory of these invaded areas. In fact, they did too good of a job. I had too many goats, and the only struggle I had with them is I had to move them too often because they ate so much of the food so fast that they just clear these invasives out. And I'd be back in, 2 or 3 days, they clear out 1/8 of an acre, would be gone, no food. And they'd be looking at me like, what, come on, you got to move me another spot. There's no food here. But we'll be doing some demonstrations like that. And yeah, Atherton and Shiawassee will probably have them out there next. I have the big goats, I don't have the babies. They'll be out and we'll be showing how we use them to treat invasive shrubs and other vines too.
Jared, this is Ned Jackson. I was just curious if you, so we just passed a massive Japanese knotweed infestation on a bike ride yesterday. Do they like that stuff? Man, if you could get goats to eat that stuff.
They'll do Phragmites too. I've never tested knotweed. I've treated knotweed for quite a while. It's one of my least favorite things to deal with. I've used milestone aminopyralids, but I treat knotweed with. I haven't used goats on it. I always worry about them, plant fragments getting distributed because I know that it likes to spread when it gets, mowed or anything. So I've not tried goats on it. That I don't have any experience with, but I know Phragmites they'll do, and even cattle will eat Phragmites. But just gotta be careful because obviously Phragmites is typically in the wetlands, so just gotta be careful what kind of damage the animals are doing to the wetland. But I've not tried on knotweed, but knotweed is something that I spent a lot of time treating it. I've also treated giant hogweed, which was interesting. I didn't think I'd ever see that, but I did treat it. Chinese yam, kudzu. We found 2 kudzu sites in Michigan in a couple weeks a few years ago, but luckily I think we got under control. But there's always spotted lanternflies coming, so we'll be doing some outreach on that. And we are partners in the SISMAs. We really want to see our local SISMAs doing well, and we do treatments and we support them in their outreach as well.
My understanding is the knotweed stores so much energy underground that down in the rhizomes that, you know, you really, if you want to kill it without somehow pulling everything out of the ground, you've got to basically prevent it from photosynthesizing. So I was just thinking, if you could have a population of goats actually living on top of it, every leaf that pops up would be eaten.
I'd be willing to experiment with that, and I might look up some research, but I'd like to see how that would work. In the past, I've always used Milestone. We recommend treating like in the fall before the first killing frost, when it goes down the roots. But I know some places have treated when it gets about 3 or 4 feet tall, these Milestone, they'll hit it, and it'll come back and hit it again in the fall when it regrows. Seems to work pretty, especially in areas where like it's a line of sight issue. A lot of times knotweed's growing in like guardrail areas or areas around corners where people can't see. So we'll treat it early spring, we'll treat again in the fall, but I've always done fall treatments of Japanese knotweed with aminopyrrolid. But you got to be careful because if you're around locusts or anything like that, legume family peas, they're really susceptible to aminopyrrolid. You got to be careful about off-target damage to those plants.
So what's your favorite chemical for Phragmites?
I would say I haven't used it myself, but I would probably reach for imazapyr, but you gotta be very careful with that stuff because it really translocates into roots. I've always just used glyphosate in a wetland approved formula, but it's done very well. But I know imazapyr is a bit more, it's such a strong root system. I know imazapyr works better, but I'm scared of suggesting that to your average person. Because imazapyr, like I said, translocates the roots of trees so easily. In fact, I believe that they are putting imazapyr in some, ultra Roundup blends that they're selling to people like Home Depot, and then they'll be spraying around their driveways and that, and then all of a sudden their big oak trees are dying. So you got to be extremely careful with that. But we've just been using glyphosate on our Phragmites, and that seems to work pretty well. But I heard imazapyr works is a more efficient killer, and like I said, it's more residual and it goes down the root system a little better. But I hate Phragmites. It's a nightmare. I've treated it. I've spent days on that stuff, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemies, especially on the hot days when you're in Phragmites stands.
Imazapyr was originally developed for things like railroad right-of-ways. I mean, the goal was to wipe basically everything out. The first person on the planet to have ever had that compound in her hands was my wife.
Oh, really?
She worked, yeah, and she was a bachelor's level chemist for the company that made it the first time around. But yeah, it's turned out to be a useful tool in certain applications.
Yeah, so I mentioned we have 2,500 acres under protection right now. I believe with our current projects, we should be hitting the 3,000 acre mark with our current workload early next year. And I'm hoping to really be increasing that number as well. It's not always about the acres. Really, a lot of it's about the quality of the acres, but we really like to protect as much as we can. And farmland will be a really significant focus for us. We do applications for farmers for the USDA ASAP ALE program, where the farmer can be compensated up to 50% of the value of the conservation easement. They can turn and put that right back in their operation and get a conservation easement on their property. We know that we're going to lose 50,000 acres of farmland in mid-Michigan by 2040, based on current projections. And we're going to lose probably 500,000 acres of prime farmland by 2040 in the whole state. So a lot of people forget that we do actually protect farms too, and I think we protect about 1,000 acres of farmland on our conservation easements. The other 1,000 acres being natural lands, and then the 425 acres being owned outright by the Conservancy.
When you say that, are you saying that because it's going to be lost to development, or like
Yeah,
people are going
development
to sell
is,
their farms? They're going to sell their
Yep.
farms. Okay.
Yep, sell the farms, a lot of development, and like I said, we're not anti-development, but it's a concern for us for our food supply and our rural lifestyle, especially those rural communities losing those farms. So we believe that we're going to lose around 50,000 acres to subdivision and urban sprawl will be the main factor in that loss of farmland.
Okay.
with regard to farmland, are you concentrating on small farms or commercial farms, or does it matter?
Doesn't really matter. We typically, I'd say our smallest properties that we protect with conservation easements are around 30 acres. I think our smallest is probably 20. And we're not super picky. We just, for every conservation easement that we take, it's required of, we're an accredited conservancy. So we need to have money put aside for stewardship and legal defense of that property in the future. So every conservation easement that we take costs the conservancy around $7,200. So we're not super picky, but we want to make sure that we're, we have kind of a criteria that we're looking at, and 30 acres is usually the minimum. But we'll also consider factors such as endangered or threatened species. Extremely rare habitats might be smaller. So we'll protect smaller properties, but really we're looking for around that 30 acre or larger property. So it'd be nice to protect the giant farms, but the small farms are just as important in my opinion. And we're happy to help protect those too and keep those in farming families. But generally, like I said, about 30 acres is typically our smaller end of protected land.
Are there restrictions in the way the land is used or how it's farmed? Anything like that?
With the conservation easement, we just suggest that use best management practices, but we don't really get into the telling you what you can do on your farm. So when the farmer transfers their development rights to us, they're just guaranteeing that they're not doing industrial construction. We limit the amount of impervious surfaces on the property to 2% of the acreage. And we don't get into telling them what they can plant, what they can't plant. We just they're transferring the development rights to us, and we want to keep their land in production. If their land comes out of production, they're allowed to have natural succession or to make natural habitat. That land can always go back into agricultural production. Like I said, we suggest best management practices. We determine in conjunction with the landowner the restrictions on the property. Like one of the conservation easements we're working on, the landowner is extremely strict about what can happen on his farm. And we're going down the details as much as how many cows per acre, how many goats per acre, how many pigs per acre, pasture pigs. And we don't always do that, but if a landowner wants to get extremely strict with the use of their farmland, that's up to the landowner. But really, we just suggest best management practices. We suggest that they work with the conservation districts or USDA, doing no-till or reduced tillage, cover crops. We want to see those type of activities on the landscape. So we actually encourage our easement farmers and ranchers to take advantage of that and try to implement practices that are good for the land and good for the water quality.
Okay, thanks. That's what I was getting at, whether or not you tried to, I don't know the right word to use, but, repair the soil from some of the other types of farming that tend to degrade it.
Yeah, and we suggest, like I said, that they work with the districts and actually farms that are, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the MEAT program, farms that are MEAT verified through the districts and MDARD actually get bonus ranking points on our USDA ASAP ALE applications. That's the Agricultural Conservation Easement Program through USDA that pays cash payments for conservation easements. If they're MEAT verified, they're doing practices and keeping records and doing things that are right by the land and people, they'll get additional ranking points to possibly get funded and chosen to have their farm protected. So we encourage that program. I'm MEAT verified. We're really trying to promote our partners too. So we'll be working with conservation districts. We'll be MEAT verifying our preserves as well to really promote that program to farmers and landowners because we want to make sure that our conservation districts are strong and that they're getting funding and the programs and the outreach that they need to do in the community.
Can I ask a question about maintenance of the farm of the farm lands if they're not being used in production? I mean, so we actually had a meeting in the Environmental Commission some years ago with the Drain Commissioner, and his view was that if a land isn't being actively farmed, I mean, a lot of these fields are fields because they, people put in tile and drained them. And the question is, if you're going to let it go back to a more natural state, what happens to the sort of maintenance of the drainage system? How does that fit into your overall sort of picture of these lands and their future?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's one I haven't really considered, but in response to the drainage, if they wanted to remove that drain tiling, I imagine that we wouldn't have a problem with that. I'd have to look into that more further with our legal counsel, but I don't see why there'd be any issue in doing that. I think the issue would be replacing it in the future if they wanted to. I'm going to write that down. That's a very good question. I hadn't considered. Most of our farms, the ones that are going out of production, we state that they can go back into production if they like. But for a few examples, they've either enrolled in CRP or they put grasslands out in their farmland, and they just get those cash. They're not actively farming anymore, but the option in the future is that they could. But we suggest that they either go natural succession or they get some help from their local natural resource conservation agencies to either promote grasslands or have any assistance in tree plantings if they'd like. But yeah, we have a few that have really gone to CRP. And they can always go back in agriculture, but it's wildlife habitat and it's easy for the landowner, especially if they're older, retired, don't want to actively farm anymore. They can let it go natural. But in the case that they sell the property in the future or transfer it, someone else can farm that land. But to your original point, I don't have a good answer for the drain tiling issue. That's a very good question. That's one that I'll follow up on because I'd like to know.
Thank you.
I'd like to encourage everybody to consider joining the Conservancy. I joined quite a few years back because of Judy Kindle was started the energy team, and Paul Kindle has been involved with the Conservancy for years. But what I've liked the Conservancy for, it's local. They're doing great work. Talk about a low budget operation. But what I've always liked about them too was every year I'd get this kind of annual report and then a request for, kind of renewing the membership. Because I get so tired of all these other groups. You contribute once and you get an email like every other day. So if there's a local group that's doing good work that doesn't bug me constantly, I kind of love them. So
I appreciate that. We do our annual newsletter. It's actually going to be coming out actually in the next few months. I do a quarterly e-newsletter, just giving you an update of the lands we protected, some of the activities and grants or any land enhancement programs that you can use, and other just information on the environment. So I only send out that quarterly. I don't like to bother people every other day about donations and that. Now we're a little bit on the smaller scale of land protected as other conservancies, but I'm looking to make us a larger presence in the center part of the state. I'd like to really expand our operations and programming, establishing a permanent endowment with the community foundation, and our first annual gathering next year. And I just really want to have more offerings, community educational. We have such a great resource in Michigan State. I'd really like to start bringing out really, I'm kind of a generalist. I'd like to bring out experts to talk about different subjects on our properties and, foresters and plant ID and birders. So we're trying to get all these things going because mid-Michigan is a beautiful place to live. There's a lot of unique, interesting properties out here. And we want to make sure that everyone has access to natural spaces. And as I mentioned, and sorry, my dog's barking at probably the Amazon guy. We're really want to expand our programs and have a greater presence here. And I'm excited about where we're headed. Like I said, we're going to be hitting 3,000 acres protected. So we're really trying to expand our protection efforts in the community and the area. And my point, our new website is coming out at the end of the month, which I'm very excited about. It's going to have a lot more information for you, and it will have detailed maps and trail maps of our properties that are accessible to you. When I first joined on, I was kind of surprised at how outdated our website was. And the new one's going to have actual maps of where you can go. And it's just going to be very, visually pleasing. Like when I get on other conservancies' websites, I feel inspired when I see their websites, and ours wasn't very inspiring. Our new one's going to be very nice. And I'm excited for it because I want to make, a lot of the, comments I get when I meet with people are, I didn't know you existed, or I don't know where your natural areas are. I don't know how to get there. And that's going to be something that we're leaving end of the month. So I'm very excited about the launch of our new website that will have that information for you. And we're doing a lot of things. And like I said, I'm hoping that we'll have a lot more natural areas open to you. And I'm hoping to have a lot of private property protected over the next few years, and really expanding the capacity of our conservancy to service the whole region and making sure we're fairly representing everyone. We do have four openings on our board. We can have up to 13. We have 9 right now. We want to make sure that we're fairly representing our entire region. So if you know of anybody who's interested in joining the board, we're always happy to have new faces. And we meet by Zoom, so we're not forcing you to come to the office every month. But yeah, we're looking to really expand. We're not a PO box. We're looking to get out there. We're looking to have a lot of people, invested in the Conservancy. We say the Conservancy is for the community, so we want to have active participation and we want to have people excited about what we're doing, joining in, volunteering, and we're going to be doing our best with what we have and increase capacity to protect more land. I'm really hoping that we can really increase our efforts and our funding to protect land. And like I said, hire students straight out of Michigan State with good jobs, or if they don't stay here, or if they don't want internship, at least they have positive job experience that they can take elsewhere and really, bring that land protection, to other parts of the country or anywhere that they want to move. Sorry, my dog's really distracting me.
Athena is been waiting patiently to ask a question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that.
No, that's okay. Athena, do you want to unmute yourself?
I just had a couple questions. You hear rumors of farmland bought up by big corporations and an effort to change traditional farming to vertical farming. And I'm just wondering if this is anything you've experienced or aware of.
I'm aware of it. And I know there's a big not the scandal, I think it was a Morris farm in Clinton County from Michigan State. I think the big battery plant was one of the big issues. I believe that's going on in Clinton County. I don't get involved in that stuff, but yeah, there are some corporations buying out some pretty large farms. And the nice thing about conservation easements is they can only be broken by eminent domain. So if we can protect farmland with a conservation easement, we pretty much guarantee that it can't be subdivided. Even if corporations buy it, they can't build on it, extreme amount of buildings or solar or even, wind turbines are not allowed on our conservation easements as well. If we were allowed those on farms, we'd have to have a building envelope for that. So yeah, fortunately, most of the farms in Michigan are family owned, but yeah, corporations are starting to buy up large areas of farmland for big projects, plants. Big problem now in Marshall, the Ford battery plant. Then the Clinton County one, and it's an issue. As farmland's expensive, and a lot of these bigger corporations afford to buy the farmland. So, our hope is that we can protect it as much as we can, so that if the farmland is sold or transferred, it still stays in farming, and it's producing food or products that are needed in our economy. And farming's big. I think it's over $100 billion things generated annually from Michigan farming. And we're the second most diverse state as far as commodities. And an MSc professor told me we're the most diverse state with water access. California is the most diverse, but they have water issues. State of Michigan, we have abundant water, fortunately, but it's definitely an industry we want to protect and a lifestyle we want to ensure that's always here in mid-Michigan and the whole state. Our farming and ranching families and our farmlands.
Jared, you said that you don't allow
a huge.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Athena.
Athena's got some connection issues apparently. So Kim, if you want to.
Okay, sorry about that. I was just going to ask, you said you don't allow solar arrays, but I've read a couple articles on agrovoltaic farms where they combine either grazing or crops in between the solar arrays. Is that something that you guys have ever looked into?
As of now, I'm supportive of that, especially pollinator plantings under solar or grazing. Just the way that we have our conservation easements written in our template form, we don't allow any of that commercial solar or any of the wind turbines. We would allow those if the farmer or rancher said they might want to do that in the future. We would leave an area of the farm we would call it a renewable energy envelope, where they would be allowed to do that, and we would have no say in what happens on that part of their property. Just the way that we have our easements worded, it's really more guided towards no commercial or industrial. So they wouldn't be allowed in our current form, but we would have the exempted areas. In the future, I have zero problem with it as far as using if we're grazing or pollinator plantings with us in conjunction with solar. It's just the fact that we have it worded so strongly in support of keeping the land undisturbed and undeveloped that we don't allow it in our current language. But it's something that I mentioned now to prospective farmers and ranchers. If you want to have the option for solar renewable energy in the future, that's fine. But you have to have a building envelope on a certain portion of your property that would allow it. And of course, we allow renewable energy, obviously, for the farm buildings or the home. We don't have any problem with that. It's just the commercial aspect that we currently limit in our conservation easement language. But it's an emerging issue in the conservation, land trust realm is solar and renewable energies.
Wonder if a community solar project would be different than a commercial solar or wind project, like if it's owned by the municipality or the jurisdiction. Maybe that's just a matter of semantics, but
yeah. Yep.
Athena,
Where
did
do
you? Oh, go ahead.
Where does the money come from to buy the land? Is it all grant money or is it through a certain budget line with the state, or how does that part work?
Yeah, so the land that we've purchased, like this farm that we're protecting in Iowa County, that's through USDA funding of ASAP ALE. We haven't purchased any land with our budgetary money from MMLC. We have received grants, like one of them is NAWCA, North American Wetland Conservation Act. Money for waterfowl habitat protection. Actually, we purchased the 120 acres at a bargain over in Ionia County. So the landowner agreed to sell it for less than its value. We received a grant to buy that property, but the rest of our properties have been outright donated. Typically, they've been, the kids don't want it, the property, or the landowner wants to see it for the public, so they donated the property to us outright. Some of them have been former easement landowners of ours who, their family had no interest in the property, so they decided just to bequeath us the land, and we open it to the public. But yeah, we have not purchased any lands with funding from our supporters. We've either used grants or we've been outright donated. And some of the easement money that we use for compensating landowners is from federal easement programs such as ASAP ALE. Some of the conservancies, we may have the opportunity in the future to purchase a really unique property. Some foundations have provided a one-to-one matching support. Like Carl's Foundation has done that in the past. I know they're doing that with a property in Cass County right now with Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy, where every dollar matched to the conservancy will be used to purchase property. We haven't done that yet. We haven't found the right property yet, but that's always an option too, is having matching funds through foundations or organizations like that.
Have you had any conversations with Emma Gample with Meridian Township? She used to work with Waldemar, and now she works in protecting about 1,000 acres of land stewardship property in Meridian and several hundred acres of park land, and runs the Meridian Conservation Corps. We have a similar challenge of expanding and protecting lands, but also maintaining it. But I just wondered if you've chatted with her at all.
I haven't. I'm writing that down on my notepad. What was her name?
Emma Campbell. The Meridian Conservation Corps concept might be a model. I'm sure you've had similar models run by you, but just the idea of using regular volunteers to help with various educational and invasive species removal, plant ID, things like that.
Yeah, I'll reach out to her. I have her name written down here, and I'll reach out to her this afternoon because I should know I should be familiar with them because they're doing the similar work that we're doing. I'll reach out and talk to them about their volunteering program and see if there's some collaboration there that we can do in the future. And we're looking at getting possibly an AmeriCorps member at some point to help us with our outreach and some of the stewardship that we're doing. There's a lot of stewardship to do, and an average board member in my organization's in their upper 70s or early 80s. So we need volunteers because I'm the one that digs all the holes and does all that stuff. And So having some spirited volunteers would be very helpful. We just added in Iosco National Area in Dansville, we've now completed the trail there. So there's a 1.5 mile trail that board members and myself helped put in, made safer walking bridges. So the dilapidated bridges are now gone and the safe ones are there. And bunker is being continuously mowed by a nice volunteer, but we have some trails that are available to you. And another thing that we'll be doing is we'll be actually putting signs on some of these properties this fall. We work in a local school, will be helping us put signs out because we have these properties. A lot of people drive by them and assume they're private, and unless you know about them, you don't know you can go there. So that's the one thing that we're doing, hopefully with volunteers. But yeah, volunteering. We're hoping to really increase our volunteer base just because invasives are always a threat. We're trying to really improve our trails and make them safer. One day we'd like to have some more like ADA compliant trails. So everyone has the opportunity to go out here, but it's a work in progress. But I will reach out to Emma today and maybe meet with her at some point in the near future and talk about land protection and some cooperative, volunteering opportunities.
She keeps probably pretty busy, but yeah, she's fun to work with and might be beneficial. One other quick question. Meridian passed a land stewardship, land preservation millage several years ago. I'm wondering if obviously there's a lot of interest in farmland protection and protecting natural lands and sort of balancing development with preservation. Seems like a millage in a municipality might be a popular thing that could be promoted as a way to supplement what you're doing.
Yeah, it would have to be run correctly. But that could be a possibility if we could use it to actually purchase and protect land. That's where there's some communities like Meridian's one of them. There's been a few communities in townships and counties throughout the state that have done really well with millages on land protection, and it seems to be a pretty popular thing to support. Most people, no matter what you believe, really are really tied to the land and want to see it protected. So that could be a possibility. We've not run a millage before. But that would be a possible way of us to increase our capacity to protect land.
I'm not suggesting you would.
No, sorry. I mean other townships. Us helping the townships and
partnership.
Yeah, sorry about that. I meant to say that we would help promote those because we can't accept the millage, obviously. But other land conservancy has helped promote those programs and worked with those programs to increase the amount of protected land in their counties and townships.
Anybody else have any questions or comments or related or unrelated to this topic? Bring up a lot of good issues. I really appreciate the time in your busy schedule, Jared. We all appreciate it, not just me.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to meet you all. And do you need my contact information? If not, you can always I can get it to you. And always feel free to reach out if you have suggestions or have any questions. We're always available for outreach as well. We're really trying to get our name out there and promote what we do. So we're always available to send someone to speak about land protection or that forestry of faucets program. We're allowed, we'd be happy to come out and speak about the ecological importance of protecting forests and drinking water. So if you need speakers for any things, we're happy to do that.
Hey, Jared, this is more an adjacent topic,
Mhm.
but we have a green burial committee in Meridian Township, and we're trying to find space to establish a green burial cemetery. And it would be easier legally and financially if we could add it on to an existing cemetery as kind of a hybrid version. And if you come across any properties or cemeteries that you think might work, maybe keep that in the back of your mind and give us a holler.
Okay, I wrote that topic down and I have your name by it, so I'll be looking for that too.
It wouldn't hurt to put
Thank
your
you.
contact information in the chat window if it's easy for you. Otherwise, I can share it with
Yeah,
people
I'll
on the
list my cell phone, which is the easiest way to reach me.
Also, what's the website that you said, what's the address for that?
Okay, so I always mispronounce it. It's our website. And I'll write it here in my chat. It's going to have the same domain name, it's just going to be an entirely new website that's coming out. But I have my phone and my email, and I'll list the website link right here.
And Amanda, do you want to reiterate anything? I know you sort of set this our connection up with Jared. Is there anything you wanted to add or subtract?
No, thanks. I knew you guys would have a lot of questions for him and would get a lot out of this, so I'm very pleased. This information has been shared. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for having me. That's my cell phone, that's my email, and then that's our link to our current website. Our new one that we're launching will have the same domain, so nothing's going to change there. It's just going to be a lot nicer website.
Fantastic. Any other comments or ideas people want to throw out there while we have this rare person in our midst? You're welcome to join us any week, Jared, of course, but
yeah, I'd be happy to join in from time to time, update you on any new protected lands and any events, and not have me talk the whole time, but at least just tell you what we're up to and anything that's going on. It's interesting. We should have quite a few more acres under protection soon.
is anyone planning on going to the goat walk in Bunker Township, I guess it is?
Do you
Bunker
post
Hill.
those on Facebook when you're going to do those? Because I'd love to know. I'd love to do that. I just can't do the one that you're doing soon.
Yeah, I have it on. I don't know if the Facebook link was posted. I could do that. Follow Mid-Michigan Land Conservancy on Facebook. We do have our upcoming events. We try to post those about a month before they happen. Just to give like the last minute posts, give you time to. We'll be doing more, and I'll probably bring out the big 200-pound goats at some time with packs in the fall when it's a little bit less hot out. But we're just taking the kids out this weekend. They need to get outside. They've been kind of annoyed by the drought, and they want to get out and walk a little bit. But we do events, or we're trying to do them every month. When we get more staff, we'd like to do like bi-monthly events in our natural areas, but we're just trying to get things going right now. But those events are always posted about a month ahead of time on Facebook.
How do you
Great.
feel about deer and invasive species or deer policies? We've got an annual deer call here.
Yeah, I'm a big time deer hunter because the problem, especially with my property I deal with right now, I mean the farm, too many deer eating the natives, too many invasives. So it's just the conjunction of too many deer and too many invasive species. So we try to call out as many does as we can, and we're taking out invasives, and we really want to, especially my property, dogwoods back, and native tree regeneration. So we do actually allow hunting in a couple of our natural areas. It's not a free for all. We have permit hunters. We only allow 100 per 10 acres max to avoid conflicts. And I know all those hunters, but we allow hunting on Iosco, which is heavily damaged by deer, and Atherton's heavily damaged by deer activity in Shiawassee County. So there's no hunting on Bunker that's open year round, but we have to control deer in a number of our properties as there's just too many of them. I can almost pet the deer at Atherton. They're so friendly. And that was after having 10 shot out of there last year. There's just too many. We've created an artificial environment, all this ag and too many deer. And so deer are actually a big problem because they hurt themselves and they hurt the wildlife. And they're eating native browse, and all the invasives are growing in. That gives us more buckthorn, more autumn olive, and more problems for us. So if we can keep their numbers at acceptable levels, it's better for the birds and all the animals that use these natural areas. It's an ongoing problem for us. So I fully support culling deer and keeping them at a more balanced level so they're not eating themselves and other animals out of house and home.
Ned, did you have a question? We have time for one or two more questions.
I had a question about the goats. We were as I said, I was on a bike ride yesterday. I'm actually in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts actually has the area we're in has a whole lot of farms that have been sort of put back to as nature preserves, and that was one of the things I was doing yesterday. I was wandering through some of those. Anyway, so the question was, can you teach the goats, like if you raise them from babyhood, can you teach them to prefer some of the non-native species? Can you actually develop a taste in the goats for going after the, the destructive species that you're trying to target?
That's a good question. In my experience, I've not had to teach them anything. The first time I tried this was at, I forget the name of the park in St. Joseph County. But there's a prairie, and the exterior woodlands they were bittersweet. So I just fenced it in, tossed 7 goats out, and they went right on the bittersweet, and that's what they seem to prefer. They have the green stuff. They don't discriminate on plants, so they seem to just eat everything. But my goats seem to have a preference for bittersweet. They don't like autumn olive quite as much as they like buckthorn. That seems to be about their favorite. It seems like the darker green leaves, at least this batch of goats I had, they like those the most. And I do get trimmings for them every evening when I check the cattle. I feed them some buckthorn. So mine are trained on actually they prefer buckthorn over anything else. So it's because it's so green. So they seem to like everything, but bittersweet and buckthorn seems to be about their favorite food that they can eat. And when I release them into the woods or go hiking, I have to I have to stop them and catch them up where I'm going because they stop to eat the whole time. Out west, they don't have as much greenery that we have here, so the goats really follow. But here, they seem to have a lot more food options available, and they think with their stomachs.
And then the other question was just, knowing that the deer population does have some chronic wasting disease, is that a threat to the goats?
Chronic wasting is not, but there's a certain, I believe it's a brain worm that can harm goats. So I recommend not putting goats into wetland areas. It seems to be where this worm thrives. Transfer to goats. So I typically would keep the goats only in upland areas for. I didn't have any problems with them at that park, but it's a good question as far as health goes. Yeah, there is a worm that can be transferred from deer to goats that can harm. It's fatal to the goat, and it's not like the brain worm. I think it's not the same brain worm that they transfer to elk and moose up north. It's a different one. I don't remember the name of it, but I remember reading that at one time when I was considering what could be problems out there. What do we have to watch out for? And really, you have to watch out for red maple, St. John's wort, locust trees can be harmful. Cherry trees, they're decaying. Decaying cherry leaves produce cyanide, from my understanding, when they are deteriorating. I don't remember the exact. We got good grade in chemistry, but it's been many years since I've taken it. There's a chemical reaction that is fatal to cattle, horses, and possibly goats when those decaying leaves are consumed in mass quantities. Just from your
cherry trees.
Yep.
Huh,
those are things I scout ahead of time before I put those animals in those areas.
Anybody else who hasn't had a chance to speak yet? Thank you so much for joining us, Jared. Again, and your dog too, making a special appearance.
She's always active when I'm on Zoom meetings.
Well, everybody, I'll save this recording if you'd like to review it or share it with anybody. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Real quick, Ned, did you have a question?
He's clapping, I think.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a question, hand raised. Well, thank you for your time. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time, and we'll be working hard. And if you have any questions or suggestions, always reach out to me on email or phone. I really thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you so much. It was very informative.
Really interesting.
Have a great day, everybody.
You too, thank you.